I'm Sally. The silence in the car on the way home was almost suffocating. Streetlights flashed rhythmically across the windshield as we drove through the quiet Austin streets. Ryan kept his eyes fixed on the road, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. I stared out the window, lost in thought, replaying the events of the evening in my mind. It all started when Ryan told me his sister, Isabella, was coming to town. Isabella was a high-flying businesswoman who had married a wealthy entrepreneur and lived in Dubai. She was known for her arrogance and her tendency to look down on others. Ryan, my husband, was a software engineer at a local startup. He was a kind and gentle person, but he always seemed a bit intimidated by his sister. One mild Thursday evening, Ryan stood by the kitchen island, nervously twisting his wedding ring. "Isabella's coming," he said, avoiding my eyes. "She's flying in from Dubai. It's been years since she last visited, and she'll be here this weekend." I had heard a lot about Isabella. Ryan always spoke of her with a mix of affection and caution. She was, in his words, a force to be reckoned with, brilliant, opinionated, and often condescending. I tried to sound neutral. "Well, it'll be nice to finally meet her." Ryan hesitated, and I knew there was more. "There's something I should probably mention. I might have simplified a few details when I told her about you." "Simplified? What does that mean?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. He winced. "I told her you work in an office. I didn't mention that you're the director of strategic development at a mid-sized tech company, or your salary, or anything." He let out a nervous laugh. "Isabella can be intense about these things. I thought it would just be easier." The words hit me like a punch in the gut. Easier? As in, easier than telling her your wife is more successful than you. He quickly stepped closer. "That's not what I meant. Isabella has strong opinions about people, and I didn't want to spend the whole weekend defending our choices. If she thinks you're just a regular office worker, maybe she'll keep her judgments to herself." I stared at him for a long time. I wasn't angry yet, but I was deeply disappointed. I had never measured our worth by titles or paychecks. I didn't expect Ryan to brag about my accomplishments, but hiding them felt like a form of shame, and it wasn't mine. "Okay," I finally said, forcing a small smile. "If that's how you want to play it." Ryan looked relieved, misunderstanding my tone. "Thank you. It's just for a few days. She's staying with my mom, and we're going over for dinner on Saturday. I just want things to be peaceful." "Peaceful," I repeated, with a hint of amusement. "Sure." That night, after Ryan fell asleep, I sat by the window of our small apartment, looking at the glow of Austin's skyline in the distance. I thought about the woman I was, ambitious, driven, and proud of what I had built. And I thought about the woman Ryan apparently thought his sister wanted to meet. Instead of being furious, I found myself smiling. If Isabella expected someone ordinary, someone she could look down on, then I'd give her exactly that, but not in the way she imagined. It was a crazy idea, a bit reckless, but also incredibly tempting. It was like a social experiment in the form of a family dinner. The next morning, the sting of Ryan's words still lingered, but I felt a sense of mischief brewing. If Ryan was too afraid to tell his sister the truth about me, then fine. I'd play the part he had set up, but I'd take it to the extreme. I started with my closet. I stood in front of rows of tailored blazers, silk blouses, and polished heels, the uniform of the woman I really was. Then I reached past them and pulled out a pair of faded jeans with frayed knees, a shapeless tee, shirt from a local market, and a pair of sneakers with peeling soles. I rummaged through an old storage box until I found a weathered canvas tote I used in college. It was frayed at the edges, and one strap was about to tear, the complete opposite of the sleek leather bag I usually carried to board meetings. Next, I removed all my makeup, leaving only a thin layer of tinted moisturizer. I pulled my hair, usually styled into sleek waves, into a loose, slightly messy ponytail. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. She looked like someone fresh out of a part-time shift at a discount store, not the director who led high-stakes strategy meetings. I smiled. It was perfect. When Ryan walked into the bedroom and saw me, he stopped dead in his tracks. "Sally, what on earth are you wearing?" "Just something casual. I said innocently, turning to face him with an exaggeratedly shy smile. Casual? You look like. I mean, are you serious? You told Isabella the First was just a regular office worker. I reminded him lightly, tilting my head. I thought I dressed the part. Don't you think it sells the story better? Sally, he sighed, rubbing his temples. I didn't mean you had to go that far. What's wrong? I teased, raising my voice half an octave, practicing the soft, uncertain tone I planned to use. Is this too low level for her high standards? Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it again, clearly torn between frustration and disbelief. I don't want this to get weird. It's just dinner, I said with a shrug, slinging the frayed tote over my shoulder. What's the worst that could happen? By the time we got in the car that evening, Ryan was visibly uneasy. As he drove through the streets of Austin, he kept glancing at me, as if hoping I'd change my mind before we arrived. Listen, he finally said, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. Isabella isn't a bad person. She's just particular. She likes things a certain way and has strong opinions about people and how they live their lives. I said, looking out the window at the fading orange sky. So, she's a self-appointed expert on how everyone else should live. Ryan exhaled. Something like that. I smiled faintly. Then, I suppose this will be a very educational evening for both of us. As we turned into the quiet neighborhood where Isabella was staying with her mother, I adjusted my ponytail and rehearsed a few more lines in my head, adding a touch of provincial naivety to my tone. I wasn't nervous. If anything, I felt strangely calm, almost excited. Isabella thought she was coming to dinner with someone beneath her. I intended to let her believe that and show her just how shallow her definition of worth really was. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon when Ryan pulled the car into the driveway of a modern condominium complex on the quieter side of town. The building was sleek and expensive looking, with a marble facade and a manicured entrance that practically screamed exclusivity. As we climbed the stairs to the 4th floor, I felt Ryan's hand brush mine, a silent plea for me to behave. I only smiled back, looking as innocent as possible. The door opened before Ryan could knock twice. Standing in the doorway was a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a high-end fashion magazine. Isabella was tall and striking, with perfect posture and flawlessly styled hair that framed a face used to being admired. She was wearing a stunning red silk dress that was perfectly tailored, and a diamond necklace sparkled as she moved. Her manicured nails were painted a deep red. Sally, I presume, Isabella said, her lips curving into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. That's me, I said brightly, pitching my voice just a touch too high. It's so lovely to finally meet you, Isabella. Ryan's told me so much about you. Isabella extended her hand in a way that suggested it was a privilege to shake it. I took it with both hands and pumped it enthusiastically. Wow, your skin is so soft. Do you use one of those fancy European creams? Isabella blinked, momentarily thrown off, then recovered with a light laugh. Well, yes, I do pay attention to my skincare.
Come in.
Please take off your shoes. I just had the place professionally cleaned. I stepped inside and had to admit the apartment was impressive. It wasn't huge, but every inch was curated to show off wealth. Hand-woven Persian rugs covered the floors, and there were beautiful crystal vases on pedestals. The walls were lined with expensive paintings. Even the coffee table was an art piece, holding stacks of glossy auction catalogs and travel books. It's like a museum in here, I exclaimed, eyes wide as I shuffled toward the living room. I'm afraid to touch anything. Isabella beamed. Oh, most of this is from our travels. That vase is from Venice, and the painting over there is by a contemporary Dubai artist. My husband, Amir, and I love collecting pieces that reflect our taste. Amir is your husband? I asked, pretending to forget the name Ryan had mentioned a dozen times. Yes, Isabella replied with a tone of superiority. He owns a chain of luxury hotels in Dubai. We met at one of his properties. It was love at first sight. It was magical. I clasped my hands together. How romantic. Ryan and I met on the city bus. I had too many grocery bags, and he offered me his seat. The silence that followed was brief, but telling. Ryan coughed into his fist, and Isabella's smile tightened slightly. Well, she said, I suppose love finds us in many ways. It really does, I chirped. I almost dropped a bag of potatoes on his lap. Can you imagine? And now here we are. Isabella pressed her lips together and nodded, clearly unsure how to respond. She quickly changed the subject. Ryan told me you work in an office. Oh yes, I said, nodding eagerly. I'm sort of an assistant. I make coffee, copy documents, answer phones. You know, nothing too fancy. I see, Isabella murmured, and I could see the flicker of triumph in her eyes, the subtle exhale of relief. She probably thought, of course, that makes sense. It's close to home, I added, twisting the strap of my fraying tote bag for effect. And the boss doesn't bother me too much. It's nice. I'm sure it is, Isabella replied, her tone dripping with patronizing sweetness. She leaned back into the sofa, satisfied. From the look on her face, she'd already decided I was exactly who she wanted me to be, someone unremarkable, unthreatening, and most importantly, not her equal. And that was precisely what I wanted her to think. Once Isabella decided I posed no real threat, she relaxed into the role of the worldly mentor. With a glass of imported wine in hand, she leaned back at her chair and began to lecture me. You know, Sally, in our time, it's not enough for a woman just to get married and keep house. A woman must cultivate herself. She should read widely, understand art, follow culture. I widened my eyes and nodded enthusiastically. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I read the back of cereal boxes every morning. Isabella blinked, then forced a chuckle, assuming it was a joke. I mean real art and culture. For example, Amir and I attend auctions in Dubai all the time. We've acquired some exquisite pieces. That painting on the wall over there is by an up and coming Dubai artist. Very exclusive. Wow, I breathed. Do you buy them because you like them or? Well, Isabella said with a knowing smile, partly because we appreciate beauty, of course, but also as investments. Art appreciates in value if you know what you're doing. She set her wine glass down and crossed her legs, the diamond on her ankle bracelet catching the light. Our apartment in Dubai alone is worth about $2,500,000. Concierge service, gym, private pool, you name it. It's not for everyone. It takes a certain level of success to live like that. $2.5 million, I echoed, feigning astonishment. That's a lot of money. Is that in dollars? Isabella gave me a patronizing smile. Yes, dear. US dollars. Gosh, I said, biting my lip thoughtfully. I don't really understand money like that. How many potato bags could that buy? Ryan coughed into his glass to hide a laugh, and Isabella shot him a sharp look before continuing. Anyway, we're expanding. Amir is opening a new resort in Abu Dhabi this year. Just the construction alone is a $7 million investment. $7 million, I gasped, eyes wide again. Wow, that's so much. But why? Isabella blinked. Why? What? Why do you need so many hotels? I asked earnestly. I mean, you can only live in one at a time, right? There was a pause, just a second too long. It's not about need, darling, Isabella said, her voice sharpening slightly as she scrambled to recover. It's about growth, investments. Capital must work for you. Oh, I said, nodding slowly, as if processing a complex truth. I guess I never thought about money like that. I usually just try to save a little from my paycheck for emergencies. And how much do you save? Isabella asked sweetly, a predatory glint in her eyes. Last month I managed about $300, I said, lowering my gaze as though embarrassed. 300. Isabella repeated the number as if it were an amusing anecdote. My handbag costs more than that. She stood, walked over to a shelf, and returned with a structured leather purse. Hermes Birkin, she announced proudly. It cost $15,000. A birthday gift from Amir. I took it reverently, stroking the buttery leather. It's so soft. What makes it cost so much? It's Hermes, Isabella said, clearly annoyed at the question. Prestige, quality, exclusivity. Exclusivity, I echoed. Does that mean there's only one like it in the world? Of course not, Isabella snapped. But they're made in small batches. There's a waiting list. Oh, like the new iPhones, I said brightly. They make just enough to make people want them more. Ryan nearly choked on his drink. Isabella's jaw tightened. It's nothing like that. This is art. It's taste. It's class. I see, I said, handing the bag back gently. I have one, too. It cost about $50, but it holds way more stuff. Isabella snatched the Birkin from my hands, clutching it protectively as if my touch might somehow diminish its value. And for the first time all evening, her perfect composure showed a hairline crack. Isabella held the Birkin close, her lips curving into a small, superior smile. You know, this costs more than what some people make in an entire year. My eyes went wide, my expression pure awe. Really?
Wow.
Is it like the only one in the world? Of course not, Isabella replied, her tone betraying the faintest hint of irritation. But not everyone can get one. They're limited. There's a waiting list. Oh, like when Apple releases a new iPhone and everyone lines up because they only make a few at first, I said brightly. The room fell silent for a second. Ryan coughed into his sleeve to hide a laugh, but Isabella's composure faltered. It's nothing like that, she snapped. This isn't a phone, Sally. It's art. It's craftsmanship. It's a statement. I tilted my head. A statement about what? Isabella blinked.
About you.
About who you are, the life you live, the circles you move in. Oh, I frowned slightly. So if a person's, not very nice but carries one of these, people will still respect them? That's not the point, Isabella said, her voice rising half an octave. It's about presentation. How you present yourself determines how the world treats you. I nodded slowly as if taking mental notes. I always thought how you treat other people determined that. Just then, my phone started ringing. The sharp, insistent buzz broke the tension in the room. I glanced at the screen. Oh, it's my boss, I said casually. Then I hit decline and slid the phone back into my bag. Isabella stared at me. Aren't you going to answer that? No, I said simply. It's after 6. I'm off the clock. Off the clock, Isabella repeated, horrified. But it's your boss. You could get fired for ignoring a call like that. I shrugged. Not really. Our company has a clear policy about work-life balance. I'm not required to respond to emails or calls outside of business hours unless it's an emergency. And it isn't. Isabella blinked at me as though I had spoken another language. That's ridiculous. If you want to move up, you make sacrifices. Sometimes that means giving up your personal time. I looked at her curiously. You think that's the only way? That is the way, Isabella said firmly, crossing her legs and straightening in her seat. When you're serious about success, you don't draw lines like that. You do what it takes. You answer the phone. For the first time all evening, I felt something inside me shift. Until now, the evening had been a game, a role I was playing, a mirror I was holding up. But now, as Isabella sat there lecturing me about sacrifice and success while wearing a $15,000 purse that someone else had bought, the absurdity of it all became too heavy to ignore. My smile faded slightly. And that's worked well for you? I asked gently, answering the phone, making sacrifices. Isabella didn't notice the change in my tone. Of course it has. Look at the life we've built. Our home in Dubai, the hotels,